What's poppin', people? It's Dante. This morning I want to share with you why I love my iPad Pro for street photography in terms of archiving, selecting photos, and everyday use. I think that the iPad Pro is the perfect tool for any street photographer out there. I think that as an artist, generally, the iPad feels like this magical tablet where anything feels possible. You have this blank canvas to work with and carry around with you everywhere you go, with pretty much unlimited storage, as you can back photos up to the cloud. You can use different applications to make art, and honestly it's just a really fun experience that brings me more joy than sitting in front of a computer. Even if I have a standing desk and a really good setup, I still prefer to use my iPad Pro. And the iPad Pro is something actually new in my life, and this is my first iPad Pro, and I'm just going to get right into the video and share with you some of my thoughts around the iPad. So I have the iPad Pro M2 chip. I believe it's 12.9 inches. I went with the bigger version, and I think actually what I want to discuss is my selection of the bigger version, as this was something when I initially purchased it, I thought, well, bigger screen, bigger resolution, whatever, I can see the photos better. The more I use the iPad Pro in a daily and more practical use case, the more I realize and suggest to get the smaller version. The 11 inch is probably much more convenient for most people, as you can carry it around with you. It's more portable. This one I can still carry around with me, of course, but I find that even if you're holding it for an extended period of time, it can become more cumbersome with the bigger version. But needless to say, I mean, I think that, look at this. I have a vertical mouse, I've got the mechanical keyboard. I've got a nice setup when it comes to computing at the computer, but for me, like using a mouse and keyboard, it just feels very unnatural to me. And what I love about using an iPad Pro is how natural it is to simply swipe your finger across a contact sheet. It feels more so like I'm looking at these physical prints here on my wall and these small thumbnails, where I can carry this device around with me wherever I go and find myself intrigued and go through my work in a more intimate way, where I have this catalog of photos here built into the Photos app on the iPad Pro with all of my images, and I can simply horizontally rotate this device to showcase the full image. I can make it vertical. I can maybe play with the way in which I use this device based on the format. You can hold it in two different orientations, which I think is a benefit, because when you use a computer, laptop, iMac, you're pretty much locked into holding it and using it at that particular place in that particular way. Whereas the iPad, I can actually, carry it around with me, bring it around. I can throw it into a satchel and take it to the coffee shop, or just take it to me everywhere I go. And this is something I've been carrying with me pretty frequently, pretty much every day. And yeah, it's something I enjoy using. I like when I finish a photo walk, if I'm outdoors and I'm still shooting photos and I'm pretty much done for the day, I can actually find myself culling through my photos, importing my photos, and making final selections by the time I walk back home. And my workflow has become much faster since using the iPad Pro. And this is probably something personal to me, as I'm currently shooting with small JPEG files. And because I'm shooting with JPEG files, I directly import my photos to the Photos app that's built into the iPad, which really simplifies the process because I don't need to do any processing. However, I have the Lightroom CC cloud application that's on my iPad here, and I can access some of my raw files that I've made throughout the years and still access these and edit these and tweak these here in this application. And the great thing about Lightroom is you can actually sync these edits all throughout the different applications throughout your different devices. So the same edit and the same processing I do to this file in Lightroom on my iPad will then be visible on my iPhone and my iMac. So this is another great way to go about making selections, culling photos. If you're shooting in the RAW format, I highly suggest the Lightroom Cloud application. It seems to work really seamlessly across all of my devices, and something that I enjoy. And so when it comes to the iPad, I find that when I use the iPad, I feel like I'm holding this sort of like God tablet that makes me feel empowered as an artist. And there's so many different applications that you can use to actually remix your photographs and do more with just a simple photo. And so one of the things that I've been doing is I've been opening up Procreate on my iPad and opening up the Photos app alongside it. And one of the fun things that I do, and honestly, I couldn't tell you the reason why I do this other than it's just fun and I just find it enjoyable, is I essentially go through some of my recent photos and I will make these fun collages where I use the built-in AI in the Photos app and hold one of the photos on the right-hand side and then drag in a part of the image to the left-hand side onto this canvas, and it allows me to create and remix different photos that I've made throughout my day. And yeah, it just gives me more to do. It gives me more opportunities to create. And yeah, I find that it is just a fun experiment. And that's all I can really say about it. There's probably a variety of things that you can do when it comes to using different applications to create new images with your existing photographs. But I actually find that using this technique of iPad and using these different applications like Procreate, I'm essentially just unlocking more possibilities, more creativity with my everyday life, and allowing me to go beyond just simply making photographs, where I can also, when I'm inside Procreate, select different images and remix different images using gradients, using different tools like the Liquify tool. There's a bunch of different things that you can do within Procreate that can actually enhance your creative process of making new images with the images that you've already created. And that's why I love the iPad Pro. I feel like it just unlocks these infinite possibilities for me. And one of the things I also love doing with my iPad Pro is blogging. And so when I have my WordPress.org website launched on my iPad, just using simple Safari, I can actually go through and make posts and publish my photos from the previous day. And so I could make a collage, I could make something like a remixed image, I could have some photos that I made that previous day, and I could make a blog post. And one of the things I do when I'm using the iPad Pro, when I'm walking and I'm writing and I'm making these blog posts, is I use this application called IA Writer. And essentially it gives you this blank canvas. It's a very minimalist tool to write with. And I can basically speak out loud using this keyboard feature and make a blog post through my voice without having to type anything with the keyboard. And so by speaking out loud and allowing the iPad's audio to pick up my voice, I can write in a much more seamless way that actually becomes more authentic. And through writing this way and walking outside, I'm able to write more creatively. If I'm sitting at a keyboard and I'm trying to write something, it feels almost impossible for me. I have to be outside in natural sunlight and actually go out there and write while walking, because to me, no thoughts come to me if I'm just sitting at a keyboard and mouse and sitting at a desk and under fluorescent lights. But I take my iPad with me wherever I go. And so when I'm outside and I'm walking and I have direct sunlight and I have a path in nature, I can write out loud. I can make my selections of my photos. I can remix images. I can make blog posts. I could make videos. I can do a variety of things with the iPad Pro that I otherwise couldn't do with a simple laptop or an iMac, because of the flexibility it gives you and provides you with the way it's like a tablet, it's portable, it's easy to use, and yeah, you no longer need to slave away at a keyboard. And that's why I prefer the iPad Pro in terms of writing, is I just click the microphone button and can create a blog post just like that. And then you see I have this entire bit of text here, and with this bit of text I could use it for a blog post. And one of the things I've actually done to enhance my workflow is I'll use ChatGPT, send it the text, and have it correct my grammar but keep it in my voice. And this is something that I've personally done and maybe is not necessary, but I found that it was something just intuitive that I decided to start doing, and I just figured I'd share that as well. Send this text back to me in my voice, comma, only change the grammar mistakes, period. Keep it entirely in my voice. Don't change or add anything. So I think the key is when you're using the voice feature to write your post, it becomes more authentic. Maybe actually even keeping the grammar mistakes would be a better idea, because then it would actually feel like it's coming directly from your voice. However, this is an idea that I'm just sharing here candidly, and you can see it's sending back to me the text that's formatted with various paragraphs. And I could also ask it to send it to me in markdown code, comma, make the best quotes in block quotes, comma, and bold text, important phrases. And so the IA Writer application is actually something that uses markdown code. And so because it's in markdown code, it essentially already formats the text in a way where if I copy and paste this to a blog post, I don't have to do any of the extra formatting when it comes to making a bold text or making block quotes. And yeah, essentially it makes the experience a lot more seamless. And so ChatGPT is sending me the text now in markdown code that I could go ahead and simply copy and paste onto a blog post. And as you can see, the blog post is formatted with bold text and I'm trying to preview the blog post. I don't remember how to actually preview it. That way you can see what it would look like when it's formatted. I think I have to save it as a draft. Let's see. So now you can see some of the, I don't know if this is actually completely visible, but you can see there's some bold text, there's a block quote. You know, it really does help out with the workflow where now the paragraphs are broken up, it's fixed my grammar, I have a block quote. You know, it's something very intuitive when you combine your voice with ChatGPT, with IA Writer. And yeah, it's something very seamless. Another great thing about using this application is if you want to export your files as PDFs, you can do so. You can select the export button, export as PDF. You can make Word documents, and there's a variety of different things that you can do with the iPad Pro. One of the things that I've recently been doing with the iPad Pro is making keynote presentations. And so here we have the keynote application, which allows you to make slideshows. And so you could actually take some of your photos from your Photos app and create slideshows and publish them as videos on YouTube. And so if you wanted to create a YouTube channel where you can share your photos via slideshow, Keynote seems to be a great option actually. And I found that by coming home from my walk in Coney Island on the 4th of July, returning home to my hotel at night, culling through my photos on my iPad Pro, I was able to seamlessly create this slideshow using Keynote and then publish it directly to my YouTube channel so that my photos were accessible via slideshow. I also uploaded the video file to my WordPress website, and I highly encourage you to try this workflow out. You know, I think actually the slideshow format is very interesting and something that is yeah, once again, it's just something very interesting and intrigues me, and I'm just sharing my workflow here. And so with Keynote, I could make a slideshow of my photos. I've also recently been using it as a tool to create YouTube videos where I make these slideshows. This video is something I titled Why Street Photography, where I discussed why I practice street photography. And I essentially add some text, I add some photos, and this just allowed me to have this seamless workflow when filming on my iPad, where I installed this picture-in-picture application. You can see me here on the screen. And so what I've been doing is I click on the Enter PIP and it pulls up my thumbnail on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. And this is something I actually paid for, this application, because I was looking for a way for me to screen record my iPad while making videos. And so essentially I will have my video popped up on the bottom of the screen while I can go through my photos here and then speak directly using the iPad audio microphone. Or what I've been doing is using this DJI microphone here, which has this interface where, yeah, I essentially plug this into the iPad and then I put this on my shirt and then I have a nice microphone. This is just something I've been experimenting with because I haven't found too much of a use case for that microphone that I have. And yeah, I found that this is actually a really good way to make videos, is by simply sharing my iPad and sharing my screen and the behind the scenes of my workflow. And so yeah, for this video, I just wanted to share with my GoPro so you can see me handling the iPad and why I like it. And essentially, the reasons I enjoy this iPad is very simple. I enjoy the fact that I can carry my archive with me wherever I go. And, you know, just think about it. Instead of having just like a stack of prints, or, you know, of course you can make a sketchbook, I have all of my photos backed up on this iPad. They're all backed up on the cloud. You know, there's something that's very seamless about using this device that provides joy in my life as an artist. And I find that through going out there, making photos, using the USB dongle, simply importing them with speed, I can actually cull through and back up all of my photographs while I'm on the go, while I'm outside on the street. And I find this to be much more enjoyable for me. As you can see, this is the USB-C to SD reader, and I simply put my SD card in, import the photos, and get to culling. And it's very fast and it's very efficient for me to go through my photos. Just for an example, when I'm going through my photos and I'm looking at the photos, all I really need to do is click and tap, and look at these very small thumbnails. And this to me is like the number one, my favorite reason why I like using this particular iPad Pro with my workflow of using the Photos app, is the fact that I have this view of a contact sheet, kind of like these on the wall here. And I can look through an entire day of work in these 3x3 thumbnails, click favorite, and there are also small thumbnails that you can drag, and so I can organize them very seamlessly as well if I wanted to, and make albums and make slideshows and use Keynote, use Procreate to remix photos, use ChatGPT, use IA Writer to record thoughts and add text to blog posts, and have a device that allows me to do everything in one place on the go without having to stop and stare at a screen at my iMac or open up a laptop in a coffee shop. This is something you can do while walking, and something that you can do on the go, something that you can do in direct sunlight, in nature, standing upright. And to me, that's the beauty of using the iPad Pro. And going forward in the future, throughout my travels, I've been making an effort to pretty much only use this iPad Pro and bring this with me, just slip it into a backpack, slip it into a satchel, and essentially I have everything I need. Accompany the iPad Pro with an SD reader and a simple compact digital camera like a Ricoh GR3X or a Ricoh GR3, maybe a Fujifilm X100V. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much the killer setup. And these are my thoughts about the iPad Pro. I'm not a very technical person. I'm not a very computer savvy person. I do have like this like nice iMac setup with like this ergonomic mouse now, because if I do want to use a computer, I found that using a mouse is very unnatural, and so I picked up this mouse so that at least if I'm at a computer, you know, I feel like I'm, I don't know, connected to the computer in a more seamless way, where sitting down at a computer just feels unnatural to me. And that's why I have a standing desk set up, and that's why I purchased a vertical mouse, and I prefer a mechanical keyboard and these kind of like tactile things. And the iPad Pro is a completely tactile computing experience where you can tap and hold and use your voice, and it's just a much simpler device for me. It really simplifies the computing process. It simplifies my photography process, and ultimately I, going forward, will be using the iPad Pro as my primary device when it comes to my photography, my creations, my blogging, whatever it is that I'm doing. I pretty much just use the iPad Pro. And yeah, I suggest if you pick up the iPad Pro, once again, don't get the big one like me. Pick up the 11 inch. I think you'd be better off with the smaller version, actually. And I think that's pretty much it. Those are all the use cases that I have for the iPad Pro. Hopefully something in this video has opened your mind about why I prefer the iPad Pro. And yeah, I encourage you, if you're looking to simplify your workflow, to pick one up. Yeah, I think every photographer, honestly, should own an iPad Pro. This is gonna sound sacrilegious for photographers out there, but look, I think actually holding the iPad Pro and this beautiful backlit screen, when I look at my small JPEG high contrast black and white images and they're right there and I can go through them and look at them, I'm a very future driven person, a digital person. I believe in digital as the future. I think this is the most beautiful way to look in an image, really. You know, doesn't matter. Like, think about a print, right? Like, look at this print. And of course, when you were probably seeing the behind the scenes of me looking at my iPad via the video, there's going to be glare that's picked up. But in real life, when you're looking at it and you have the brightness to the max, there's no real like issue with glare and looking at the image. Whereas like this beautiful print here, Alex Soth, you know, a Magnum poster print, you know, there's just like glare on it, and it's like you can see like the reflections of it, and it's like with a physical print, actually it's kind of funny. It's just so to me like old school at this point, and this is just my radical idea is, yeah, physical print is just not interesting to me anymore, honestly. And I find that maybe slideshow format is much more, once again, just intriguing to me, and the limitations of a print on a wall and how it lives and just like where it has to be positioned at the proper location to have, you know, the right viewing experience, to me just feels so outdated. Should we be looking at photos on screens? I prefer the book format if we're going to talk about the final outcome of a photo project. I think the book to me is the greatest experience, but the limitations of a gallery and having to get the proper lighting and the space involved, it just makes no sense to me. But you could simply make a wordpress.org website, go to bluehost.com, host your first name, last name, and I've installed the Astra theme where I basically have this very simple and seamless blogging format that is like a blank sheet of paper for me to publish the photos that I make each and every day. And essentially I treat it just like my own personal journal, a public meditation, and a way for me to share my process and the behind the scenes of my photography. And over time, the goal is to create my own gallery, create my own space, to own my own domain, and not have to be somebody who's going through any intermediaries, whether it's a gallerist or, you know, any of the traditional ways of presenting your work, publishers, etc. You become the publisher. You know, delete your Instagram account. I highly suggest that as well in this video before we end up closing off this thought about the iPad. Yeah, delete your Instagram account. There's really like I don't know. I'll maybe have to make a separate video to go into more about why you should delete your Instagram. Yeah, I think you should create a space that is yours. And when I use the iPad and I hold it in my hand and I go through my work and I publish it directly to my own space, I feel empowered. If I publish my work to Instagram, it's in a closed platform where only other people who have that Instagram account can view your work, and I just don't see a point in Instagram. And so, yeah, make your own website, pick up an iPad, and try it out. Maybe this will make you more creative or something. All right. Thanks for watching. iPad Pro.